The story behind League of Legends, Episode 22. Quinn and Valor, Demacia's Wings. Quinn and her twin brother, Garen, were born in Wendale, a remote mountain hamlet in the northeastern hinterlands of Demacia. Raised to believe in the nobility and righteousness of their homeland's values, the two were inseparable. Wendale was a thriving town of hunters and farmers, protected by mountain rangers expert in intercepting and killing any monsters that came down from the high peaks to hunt. While the twins were young, King Jarvan III visited Wendale on an inspection tour of the East Wall, the barrier between Demacia and the lawless, tribal states beyond. Hoisted high on her father's shoulders, Quinn thrilled to the pageantry of the king and his warriors, resplendent in gleaming sunsteel plate. Quinn and Caleb were captivated, vowing to become knights of Demacia and one day fight alongside the king. Their childhood games cast them as heroic knights, bravely defending the land from vile monsters, savage Freldrians, or black-hearted Noxians. They spent every moment they could in the wild surrounding Wendale. Their mother, one of the village's foremost rangers, taught them how to track the beasts of the forest, how to survive in the wild, and, most importantly, how to fight. Over the years, Quinn and Caleb developed into a formidable team, working together in a way that brought out the best in both of them. Her keen eye for tracks, his skill at baiting their prey, her aim with a bow, his prowess with a hunting spear. But one excursion high into the mountains north of Wendale ended in tragedy when the twins encountered a party of Bouvel nobles hunting a giant tuskboar, a predatory killer known for its thick hide, long razor horns, and ferocious temperament. The nobles had failed to kill the creature outright, and the wounded beast turned on them, goring several of the family's young scions to death. Quinn and Caleb were quick to intervene. They drove the tuskboar off with a flurry of arrows to its skull, but not before Caleb was gored to death by the creature while saving the Bouvel matriarch's life. The nobles thanked Quinn profusely and helped her bury her brother before gathering their dead heirs and returning home to mourn. Caleb's death almost broke Quinn. They had dreamed of fighting as a pair, and without her twin by her side, Quinn's hopes of becoming a knight seemed hollow. She fulfilled her duties to her village, as was expected of any daughter of Demacia, but her heart was broken and the joy that had previously energized her dimmed like the last light of summer. Without her brother by her side, her prowess in the wilderness waned and she started making mistakes. Nothing life-threatening, but she missed easy tracks, her aim was off, and became dour and uncommunicative. Quinn regularly visited Caleb's grave at the site of their battle with the tuskboar, unable to move on and forever reliving her moment of loss. A year to the day after Caleb's death, she returned to the mountain clearing as she had many times before. Lost in grief and reflection, Quinn didn't hear the approaching tuskboar. Amid the razor horns crowning its skull were the broken shafts of arrows she and Caleb had loosed in their previous battle with the beast. The monster charged, and Quinn desperately fought for her life against the enraged beast. She fired a dozen shafts at the creature, but none of her arrows were accurate enough to find the weaknesses in its thick hide. Exhausted from the battle, Quinn stumbled, and the beast was upon her. She dived from its path, but not quickly enough, and the tip of its horn sliced her from hip to collarbone. Badly wounded, Quinn fell as the beast circled around to finish her. Quinn looked the beast in the eye and knew this was her death. She reached for the last arrow in her quiver as a flash of blue sliced through the air. A beautiful, blue-pinioned bird swooped in and raked its claws over the tuskboar's face. The bird was an Azurite eagle, the breed said to have inspired the winged symbol of Demacia and long thought extinct. The screeching bird dived again and again, its claws and beak ripping bloody gouges in the tuskboar's skull even as the beast's horns gouged its body and tore its wings. Quinn slowed her breathing and drew back her last arrow as the monster bellowed in fury and charged. She loosed, her bow stave snapping with the force of her draw. But her aim was true, and the arrow flew into the monster's open mouth to pierce its brain. The tuskboar's body plowed a great furrow in the earth toward her, but it was dead and Quinn let out a shuddering breath of relief. She crawled to where the eagle lay, its wing broken, and saw in its eyes a deep well of kinship. She bound the wounded bird's mighty pinion and returned to Wendale with the tuskboar's horns as a trophy. The wounded bird perched on her shoulder the entire way, refusing to leave her side. She named the eagle Valor, and nursed him back to health. The bond that formed between them rekindled the fire in Quinn's heart, and, once more, her thoughts turned to serving Demacia in battle. With her father's help, she crafted a new weapon from the horns of the tusk boar, a finely wrought repeater crossbow capable of firing multiple bolts with a single pull of the trigger. With her parents' blessing, Quinn and Valor traveled to the capital and petitioned the drill masters of the Demacian army to join their ranks as a ranger knight. Ordinarily, years of training were required to serve in the highly disciplined Demacian military. Quinn did not have such training, but she easily passed every test the full ranger knight set her. The drill masters had no idea how such an individualistic hunter and her unique eagle might fit within their rigid command structure, so they prepared to reject her petition. But before their verdict was delivered, Lady Listara Bouvel, the noblewoman whose life Caleb had saved, intervened and vouched for Quinn's courageous heart and great skill. Quinn was immediately inducted into the Demacian army, and though she proved a fine ranger knight, she struggled with the inflexible hierarchy and, in her view, needlessly prescriptive regulations. Her fellow warriors acknowledged her skills, but still viewed her as something of a wild card, a Demacian who preferred operating out with the established order, who crafted her own missions and came and went as she pleased. She never remained within the city walls for long, preferring to live out in the wild as opposed to keeping the company of her fellow soldiers. Only the fact that she was so successful in uncovering nascent threats and rooting out hidden enemies allowed her a degree of leeway unheard of in Demacian ranks. When a Noxian assassin struck down Castle Aldale's commander on the day of Lost Light, Quinn's talents proved themselves once again. The killer escaped battalions of knights dispatched to capture him, but Quinn and Valor tracked and killed the assassin after a night of lethal traps, counterattacks, and ambushes. She returned with the assassin's blade, earning the nickname Demacia's Wings. Quinn remained in Ondale just long enough to receive her commendation before she and Valor once again departed the city to return to the wilderness where they were most comfortable. Since then, Quinn has ventured far and wide in service of Demacia, risking journeys to the far north of the Freljord and deep into the Noxian Empire. Each time she and Valor have returned with intelligence vital to the security and defense of Demacia's borders. While her methods do not easily fit within the heavily codified strictures of the Demacian military, none can doubt Quinn and Valor's preternatural brilliance in the field. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to share video and subscribe us channel.